Israeli Prime Minister has vowed to retaliate against the Houthis today after a missile hit the grounds of Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv, injuring 6 people. For more on this, I'm joined by retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel and former Director of Cybersecurity for the Department of Defense, and John Mills, along with the founder of the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, Cliff May. Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
So, Colonel Mills, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has vowed revenge after the airport bombing in Tel Aviv today. What does that mean for Israel and Iran's relations?
Well, John, it means Iran is still a threat. The Houthis would not exist if it wasn't for the sustenance of Iran, which we still have failed to interdict the supply chain coming across the coast to Oman, then by truck down to Yemen. So they're still firing missiles. We have a perfect score in knocking down the missiles. We need to do better. That's both Israel and America in stopping that supply chain, that flow of missiles down to the Houthis.
Cliff, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Colonel Mills is exactly right. Under the Biden administration, as you know, the Houthis have been for a long time stopping shipping through the Red Sea, costing nations around the world a lot of money, violating the idea of freedom of the seas. So the Biden administration essentially shot the arrows, not the archers, right? They knocked down missiles at great expense. The Trump administration has done better. They've been targeting the archers. But what Colonel Mills says is very important. Where are the arrows coming from? Yemen's a poor country. We know that the missiles and drones are coming from Iran. President Trump knows that. He's talked about it. And he said that there's going to be consequences if these missiles and drones keep getting supplied from the Islamic Republic of Iran to the Houthis to use against commercial shipping, against U.S. Navy vessels, and not least against Israel. The Houthis, they're a terrorist group, they're a rebel group, they're not the government in Yemen, they're a proxy of the Islamic Republic of Iran, one of many terrorist proxies, and they need to be stopped. And actually, the easiest way to stop them is just to stop the supply chain that gives them the weapons to fire.
Interesting. So Vladimir Putin made another important declaration earlier today in regards to the war against Ukraine. Colonel Mills, Putin coming out saying he hopes he won't need to use nuclear weapons against Ukraine. This after he hinted last November he was ready to use nuclear warfare. What's your take?
Well, interesting comment from Mr. Putin. I'd say bottom line, we need to drive to closure on some of the key factors. There's some who have dismissed or feels that it ensnares us further in Ukraine, the rare earth metal deal. But I think it's very, in many ways, wise and strategic by the Trump administration. A lot of those rare earth metals are actually in Russian-occupied territory. It's very interesting. That kind of forces the Russians to come to the negotiation table. But Mr. Putin got to solve the Black Sea combat, which is effectively done. Cross-border firing still going on. Got to stop the forward line of troops that are still in contact. That's a hard one. This is the largest settlement of conflict in progress since essentially Korean War. But then you have Putin, who is of course trying to gain the upper hand in negotiations.
You know, Cliff, the thing is Putin trying to use a page out of Art of the Deal in terms of going to the extreme to walk back to the middle to try to get as much as he wants?
Yes, I think so. And I think President Trump can recognize that from time to time, and this has gone on for 3 years, he threatens to use nuclear weapons. Now, Colonel Mills can correct me if I'm wrong. The use of nuclear weapons on this battlefield would not be a tremendous benefit to Putin. He'd have to get his troops out of the way. The area he hits would be unusable for a long time. It wouldn't have a lot of military effects. The winds blow in that region from west to east, meaning any radioactivity would blow back to Russia rather than stay in Ukraine. So this is threat and intimidation from President Putin. And I do think President Trump is getting frustrated and a bit fed up because Putin has not been willing to have any kind of ceasefire, not at all. And President Trump recently, after there was rocketing and droning of residential areas in Kiev, President Trump said to him, stop. And he didn't stop. He continued. He had a town of Sumy on Palm Sunday. He has never stopped. Zelensky has said very clearly, I'm ready for an unconditional and full ceasefire. He said that to the president in the Vatican when the two of them met. A ceasefire would be a good idea for many reasons, not least the humanitarian reasons, which President Trump has stressed. But I think there has to be pressure on Putin, economic sanctions for sure. I think more weapons to Ukraine, particularly Patriot missiles, to defend their residential areas. But I also think ATACMS only to target the military in Russia. And then I think with some pressure, Putin will agree to a ceasefire. But it will require that.
Well, it's clear that Putin actually pushed Trump's buttons. And you know what? That's one button you don't want to actually push. Colonel John Mills and Cliff May, thank you so much for joining us.